Let's talk about emulsions today. An emulsion is a liquid dispersion in which the dispersed phase, known as the internal phase, is composed of small globules of a liquid that's distributed throughout a vehicle or a medium, that's our external phase, in which it is immiscible. The stability of emulsions is maintained by the emulsifying agent, which also helps to prevent the dispersed particles from coalescing or fusing, which can destroy the emulsion or break or crack it. Generally, there's two types of emulsions. So the first type is an oil-based emulsion. That's where the oil is dispersed as droplets throughout the aqueous phase, and we call this oil and water, or O/W. The second type is water, that is dispersed as droplets in an oil vehicle, and we call this water and oil, or W/O. The choice that we pick for an emulsifying agent is really important to prepare an emulsion, that it possesses the best stability, and it depends on the type of the emulsion to be prepared and the method used. Generally, there are two types of ways that we can compound an emulsion. The one that we're going to focus on today, and we do this by using a mortar and pestle or a bottle as pharmacists, is the dry gum method. You may also hear this referred to as the continental method. We'll call this the 4-to-2-to-1 method. I'll explain what that means in just a moment. There's also what's called the wet gum method, which we're not going to cover today. A little bit more about the dry gum method. Again, this is the 4-to-2-to-1. This is where gum is added to oil, then water is added. And if the drug is water soluble, it's dissolved in the aqueous phase before addition. And if the drug is oil soluble, it gets dissolved in the oil phase. And whenever an emulsion is to be prepared by the dry method, the primary emulsion ratio must be calculated as the compounding initiates by the formation of the primary emulsion. So let's try an example. While on IPPE rotations, you were asked to compound 100 milliliters of an emulsion according to the formula provided below, using the dry gum or 4-to-2-to-1 method, and you're asked to calculate the oil to water to emulsifier contents for the primary emulsion. So the first thing I want to point out is the 4-to-2-to-1 method. What does that exactly mean? So this means 4 parts oil to 2 parts water to 2 parts of an emulsifying agent, which is usually a gum-like substance. So if we label them, so here's your oil, here's your gum or your emulsifier, the tragacanth, and then of course your water. Okay, now one thing I want to point out is that you are asked to compound 100 milliliters, and this particular formula calls for 500 milliliters. So the first thing we need to do is we need to reduce this formula that we're working with and make it applicable to what we actually need. So we want 100 milliliters. We have a formula that's QS to 500 milliliters, and we get a factor of 0.2. Now we're going to take that 0.2 and we're going to reduce these quantities by that amount. The easiest way to do that is to just start with one of the quantities. So 150 mLs times 0.2 will give us 30 milliliters. And really that's all that we need to do to start this ratio. So as remember, again, it's 4-to-2-to-1. So we have our oil amount. So we have 30 milliliters of oil. And if that's our 4 ratio, then we know that we have to divide by 2 to get our water. So our water amount will be 15 milliliters. And then again, we know that we have to divide by 2 again in order to get our emulsifying agent. So that's 7.5 grams of our tragacanth, or our emulsifying agent. So this is your answer. Pretty simple. 30 milliliters of oil to 15 milliliters of water to 7.5 grams of tragacanth as your emulsifier contents for your primary emulsion.